Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you warmly to this Rivers webinar to fight pollution. The Waste Free Rivers webinar as such is organized to address an utmost important problem we all are very much aware of, riverine pollution. And it is not only the riverine pollution we are currently addressing, but of course we talk about marine litter, where it finally ends up all. And the challenging thing here is that we would like to address this. A lot of interventions have been taken already. Think about the Single-Use Plastics Directive, the Port Reception Facility Directive. For those of you who come from Europe, I know there are more continents present at this very moment. But we try to address that, so we look into preventive measures, but also end-of-pipe solutions. But in between, there is also the pathway known as the river, and that has to be addressed as well. And that is partially lacking, and that's something what we are going to discuss today. 150 million tons of waste are currently out there in the ocean, so how are we going to deal with that? And we can't do that by just one organization, none of a political nature, not a business or corporation or NGOs. We have to do it jointly all together. And that's why I'm so very grateful that so many people of so many continents are joining this event. I also know that a lot of old and new friends are present there, so very welcome here. The meeting we are currently organizing is of course done by a number of organizations, which I would like to address first. We have the CPMR North Sea Commission present, Province North Holland, Minister Zita Pels is currently present at the table here as well. Zaanstad Municipality is one of the hosts, Alderman Gerard Slegers is present here, and KIMO, Association of Coastal Municipalities, which on whose behalf I'm here as well. That panel, there's also a panel of those people representing the organizations here, is also the Water Board of Hollands Noorderkwartier, which is represented by Klaasien Hartog. If you have questions during this event, you will have the opportunity to ask those. And we have a chat function in the program you're looking at this very moment. So when you have questions, please ask them. It can be in general, it can be addressing the presenters. A number of presentations will follow up shortly, but also for the politicians at the table, you could ask them. Now, the chat is simply being operated by Jolanda Smal, my colleague of the province here. Frank Kuiper is operating the Mentimeter, because there are also targeted questions for you at specific moments during this event. So Frank will deal with that. And we have Marije Wilmsen keeping an eye on the time, because I don't have time for that. And Mike Vonk and his technical team are the technical facilitators of this event. What I already referred to is we have the Mentimeter. Mentimeter is there, so please go to www.menti.com. You will see the code for entering this program on your screen, and fill out the questions when you like to. What kind of program are we going to deal with? What are we going to explain to you? Now, the thing is, of course, we will have a number of scientists to deal with the contents, the substance of the problem, what is the nature, etc. We have also political interventions, what is being dealt with there. And next, there is also a number of other for instance, NGOs that also deal with all kinds of measures. And then we enter the political part of the program. That is what I would like to share for you at this very moment. And now I would like to give the floor to Regional Minister Zita Pels to introduce a video. Zita, the floor is yours.
Yes, well, thank you for joining our webinar today about the fight against plastic pollution, but also about finding with one another the way to the solution with the puzzle we have together. We think nobody has a single key to solve the puzzle, but we have to work together. So I hope you enjoyed today, and to officially welcome you to the region, we have made a small video for you.
dan die een keer. Zal ik die zware kip...
Ja,
Zo, dat
doe
ding is
maar.
echt zwaar.
Yes. Heel veel water in die zak.
Ja, dan vraag je je af, van wie is dit nou? Als het op zo'n hotspot ligt, hè, ja, wie gaat dat dan opruimen?
Wie neemt het initiatief? Hè, welke overheid gaat er aan staan en zegt dit is van mij? En ik denk dat we het eigenlijk alleen maar met z'n allen kunnen doen.
Thank you, Zita, for this introduction to this introductory video, which shows clearly that we have to work together to simply lay this puzzle, to make this puzzle a whole. So we can't do that by ourselves, so that's the reason why we all have to cooperate. Just to help this a bit, to facilitate this, I would like to ask Frank, for the first time now, to deal with the Mentimeter moment, the Mentimeter questions. Frank, what kind of Mentimeter questions do you have for now?
We have several Mentimeter questions, and we call it a Mentimeter moment. And to start, for those who are not used to working with Mentimeter, you have to do www.menti.com at your smartphone and then use the code 34237902, which will always be on top of the screen. If you do that, you will now find a question. And the question is, where do you come from? We have applications from all over the world, and I'm very interested how many have joined us today, and the voting goes very smoothly. I see the Netherlands coming from a UAE member state. And of course, we have extraterrestrial guests. I'm always very pleased to notice that there are aliens among us. And I think not everybody has voted. There are over 70 people in the chat. So please give your vote where you come from. The people from India, Pakistan, North America, that's outside of Europe. It's also very interesting. But we can't let it run forever. So I'll close this question. And I show you, oh, some latest votes. Yes, please, thank you. We have contributions from all over the world, from Indonesia to the United States of America. And one extraterrestrial didn't fit this chart. And another question, what is your profession? Do you work for the government, national or regional, in the water management? Are you a scientist or from an environmental group or another group? We would like to know your background. It's very interesting to see that we're getting used to using this Mentimeter to get an idea of who's online. And I think about 50 people have found their way. So I give the floor again to you, Mike.
Thank you, Frank. Also, always nice to know that there are extraterrestrials amongst us. What we have, of course, it's very great to hear that a lot of people from a lot of countries and even continents are present here. It is a very important topic. We, of course, here work in Europe. Even the European Commission is interested in the topic, and also one of their representatives would deliver a speech today, Mrs. Chabot, very has a heart for the topic as such. But we were just 10 minutes ago informed that she has a personal matter which she has to attend to, which is very urgent. It's a very pity that she cannot join at this moment, but her assistant will just deliver this presentation to us. So please go ahead and show us what Mrs. Chabot wanted to say to us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mike. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. So again, Catherine would like to extend her deepest apologies as she had a personal emergency. So I know it would have been more inspiring to have a solo sailor today rather than a parliamentary assistant, but I will try to stay true to her message. So first of all, she wanted to thank you all, and she was really thrilled to participate because she knew there were many high-level panelists coming from NGOs, governments, institutions or university, and she wanted to thank the CPMR and the North Sea Commission and of course the region of North Holland for hosting this event on a topic that is actually very important for her, because we often talk about marine litter, but sometimes we miss the focus is specifically on the pollution of rivers. So as you know, Catherine is a sailor, so she was able to see the matter of pollution at first hand. And it's always a daunting vision for someone who is a lover of the sea, as she is, and I'm sure as you must be. So what we did in the Parliament recently, I worked with her on a report which is called The Impact of Marine Litter on Fisheries. It was her first report as a rapporteur, meaning that she was in charge of negotiations. And one of the key messages to keep is that it was quite challenging for her because she was trying to bring in a holistic vision of the issue, meaning going from land to sea. And the problem in the Parliament is that very often competences are divided between committees. And we had this report under the PECH committee. So sometimes you can have a battle of competences, for example, with ENVI, who are the one dealing with waste policies, etc. So she has tried to bring in this systemic and holistic approach, which in the end we have managed to bring. So it was a bit of a success for her. She was basically explaining that the issue of marine litter cannot be sorted at sea, but we had to go really high up into the chain of production, even sometimes before waste becomes waste. So she wanted to explain how waste actually got into the water cycle, and we see that with wastewater treatment plants and also with littering. So to operate basically upstream to downstream and to take the whole life cycle of waste, we made some recommendations. So first of all, she explained that we needed to better understand what was the kind of waste we had in front of us. So for example, in France, there was a recent study made by Tara. Tara, it's a ship. She is a scientific ship. And what they've done recently is that they went around 9 rivers in Europe, and they took some samples out of the water. And the conclusion was very clear. It's that 100% of the samples they had collected contain microplastics already. Because often you have the impression that plastic, like big bulk of plastic, would go down in the ocean and then they would degrade. So their research has proven that it's absolutely not the case, and that it actually degrades way up in the rivers, in the streams. So another important thing for her is the wastewater treatment and how they operate. We know that they cannot always get all the microplastics, and that's why we're very interested in hearing the comments from those operators during the event. In France, we also recently had a pollution phenomena in Corsica, where you had tiny filters, plastic filters that actually went away into the sea, and thousands of them were being found on the coast and on the beaches. So also the sludge, because sometimes we have a lot of elements that are still in the sludge and they're being brought back into the environment. So she wants to have a special focus on that, on the best practices and all. And also to act, as you say, on the rivers, on the hotspots where waste accumulates. So we have to identify where they are and then act upon it. So those are mainly the biggest messages from the report, but of course we invite you to have a look at it. And finally, to stay in the topic of everyone can bring a solution to the table, Catherine has initiated a new initiative, which is called See Your Solution. So it's the hashtag with a little play on words, See with SEA. And the objective was simple. Sometimes we make a report, we have recommendations, but then it's voted and we don't really hear about it anymore. She wanted to have the report live on. So as a matter of fact, a lot of initiatives exist on the ground already, but people do not share them. And since we are about sharing best practices, the idea is if you have a solution on the ground, please share it on social media, use the hashtag, and then we will forward that and be a platform for you to reach as many people as possible. So voilà, we hope we can work on all of that together. And again, she's very sorry she couldn't be there today, but she's eager to see what comes out of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this information. At the moment when we could have that report, would also be would be nice. We could also share it with the audience if needs be. So if you could share it with us, we would be very pleased. What we are currently now going to do is we have to dive into the substance of the matter. What is the nature and the gravity of the problem? That's the thing we have to address. And for that, we have invited a number of very interesting speakers. The first one, on the state of affairs setting the scene, is Dr. Thomas Maas. He is a senior scientist at Grid Arendal in Norway, and he has a special focus on marine litter. And I still have to stress that you can share your chat questions with us during his presentation as well. But before we go to the presentation, Frank, do you have a Mentimeter question?
I'm not sure who is shared now. Sorry, Thomas, I interfered in your sharing because I've got a Mentimeter moment for you, and the question, the answer you will answer in your presentation. And the question to the audience is, how much plastic will we use in 15 years from now compared to today? What do you expect? Will there be a decrease? Will it be the same? Might it be doubled or tripled or even a 10-fold increase? And please give your votes now, and we can see what you hope or think or fear that it will be. And Thomas will give you the answer in his presentation. We have about 60 people who are using Mentimeter, so I'm waiting. This is interesting for you, Thomas. You can reply on this. Okay, I think we've got the votes in. So I want to give you the floor, Thomas, and you can share your presentation with us and respond on this outcome of the Mentimeter question. They think it's tripled in 15 years.
Thank you very much, Frank. I will not yet give you the answer, otherwise nobody might listen anymore. So I'll go to my presentation first. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I am Thomas Maas, as already been introduced. I'm the senior scientist at Grid Arendal, but I'm also representing OSPAR today. OSPAR is the regional sea conference, which is looking after the Northeast Atlantic on behalf of 15 contracting parties and the EU. I will talk today about the less fantastic side of plastic. Don't get me wrong, plastic is a great product, but it's not so fantastic if we don't deal with it at the end of its life. This will lead to plastic pollution, and that's what we're here for today. So I will give you a crash course on marine litter. There's quite a few slides, so I recommend you to hang on to your kitchen tables or desk chairs, wherever you are. And I'll start talking about what marine litter is. It's very complex definition sometimes. You can see here, this is the official one, but basically we are talking about man-made objects in the marine environment. So I've given you some examples on the next slide. Over the years, I've been looking at this problem. I've almost found everything from food packaging to car tires to parts of a wing of a plane, for example, a toy, to plastic bags, to shoes, gloves, buoys, fishing nets, you name it, we found it. The majority is always plastic, and you can find it on beaches, but you can also find it on the seafloor and in the water column. It is omnipresent and it is everywhere. Often people ask me, how does it come? Where does it come from, this marine litter? Well, it is often a combination of several factors. Some of the most important factors I try to list for you here. Of course, poor waste management. If we don't capture the waste at the end of its life, it's obvious it will leak into the environment. It's often also a behavioral issue. Not everybody is aware about the issues of plastic or the impact it might have when you lose a bit of plastic. Next to that, we have a society which is quite geared up towards consumption and very non-circular. So the more we produce, the better it often is, or at least that's what we think. And then last but not least, product design. Often these plastic objects have been designed for very particular tasks in their life, but nothing has been considered in terms of their end-of-life solutions. So these factors combined, together with the fact that plastic production has risen quite significantly from about 2 million metric tons to 426 million metric tons over the last decades. And we can see consumption rates vary around the world between around 0.6 to 4.5 kilogram of plastic per day per person. It is not that surprising that we start seeing some issues in the environment. We haven't dealt with our waste properly. So this is the ideal cycle. So it should normally be that we have hydrocarbons. These could be oils or biofuels. We turn them into plastic products. We use them, and in the best case, we can also reuse them. But quite often, actually, it is not going in a circular route. We more often put it in a landfill. Some cases we do incinerate it and get some energy out of it. And in some cases, we also recycle, and then it becomes circular, of course. This is a bit of the global picture. If we don't manage our plastic well, it will leak in the environment. We have produced around 9.7 billion metric tons of plastic. About 6.8 billion tons of that is gone to plastic waste. And these are the numbers which we currently have on a global level. 80% is going to landfills, environments, 10% is incinerated, and 10% is recycled. You often see these pictures where there's these big hotspots in Asia. It has to be taken with a pinch of salt because often what we call recycled in our countries is being shipped to developing countries, which are probably ill-equipped to deal with all of that plastic. And so some of the leakages we see here is not just their fault. Often people think also that because they are far away from the ocean, they're not connected. This is totally incorrect. We live on one blue planet. Every river, canal, stream of waterway, sewage pipes or overflows connect us all to the ocean. And so we are basically all connected. Everybody plays a role, be it on land or be it on the sea. Whenever you have a plastic item, you're responsible for its disposal. So a few years ago, some researchers estimated that around 10 river systems carry around 90% of the plastic that ends up in the ocean. You can see some of these rivers highlighted, like the Yellow River, the Yangtze, the Pearl, the Mekong, the Nile, the Niger. However, quite recently, there was an updated estimate from Meyer et al. And he showed it's much more likely that we have around thousands of rivers which contribute to these plastic inputs. And what he actually showed was that countries in the middle income category, so not the richest ones or the poorest ones, but those which just have enough money to buy a lot of those plastic items, who do not have proper waste management in place, they are actually also leaking quite some high amounts of plastic. You can see that on the map here as well. So rivers play an important role. And even more recently, a week ago, there was a very big European study. It doesn't mean we are doing that great in our countries when I talk about developing countries, because you can see here the top riverine floating macrolitter items in European rivers. And you can see actually that there is quite a lot of food packaging. A lot of it is bottles, packaging, or any kind of other food packaging we associate with fast food, for example. And you can see that a lot of these rivers are also contributing to litter in our regions. This was also obvious a few years ago. We did a very large study where we looked at 25 years of seafloor litter data, which was gathered on the back of fishery surveys. And the data clearly showed the effects of the riverine inputs. You can see here the ROFI, which is the regional freshwater influence, or basically a highway of fresh water, which is produced by European rivers like the Rhine, the Meuse, and the Scheldt, which to large amounts of litter into the North Sea. And you can see a clear orange spot in front of the Dutch coast where this litter has sunk to the seafloor. So this is a very simple visualization of the ocean system, but marine litter comes in via rivers, beaches, or direct inputs from a vessel, for example. And then once an item arrives in the ocean, you could almost compare it with a giant washing machine. Density plays, of course, an important role. The heavy items will sink rapidly to the seafloor. Lighter ones are taken on a voyage, and they might fragment slowly. Some get cast back on the beaches. Others will settle out and sink to, again, the ocean floor or areas where settlement can occur. So we do have sinks and transitory routes in the ocean where plastic is taking advantages of. When we looked at habitats, because it's not just there, it's also causing issues, we did a study this year. And so we assessed the exposure of coastal environments to riverborne plastic pollution. It's very clear that different coastal environments receive different amounts. deltas, for example, although they're a very small part of the oceans, less than 1%, actually receive 52% of plastic pollution. Oppositely, rocky coasts are much more prevalent, but they receive a very small fraction of plastic pollution. And when we compare this to habitats, you can see mangroves here, coral reefs, seagrass, and salt marshes. You can actually see that 54% of mangroves are within 20 kilometers of large plastic pollution sources. And so this will have an effect. Next to the fact that plastic is present, we often see it fragmenting, and we call these tiny fragments or particles below 5 millimeter microplastics. There's two main parts, the ones which we have put in already in that size, like the ones in your toothpaste, for example, or the ones which come from the breakdown of bigger items. This means that microplastics is a very highly diverse class of contaminants from different sizes to different polymers, different types of additives in there. So it's not just one easy story. And this story leads to the fact that different types of particles, different types of polymers will behave quite differently in terms of pathways and sinks. Good example is that we find, for example, quite low amounts in the water column at this stage, but we find much higher amounts in the sediments. And so it's clear they are sinking some of these particles. So why is this important? Well, depending on the size, it will also come in different effects. So different organisms can ingest it. And you can see that from whales to plankton, a lot of organisms are actually being affected by these smaller fragments. Here you see the picture of ingestion, one of the main issues it provokes. And you can see that, for example, 100% of turtle species are affected by marine litter, but also 60% of marine mammals and birds are actually been found to suffer from plastic ingestion. Here we see the same picture for entanglement, and the evidence is almost similar. We do find more and more out, and the more we look, the more we find impacts from the Arctic to the equators. So what is OSPAR doing? Well, OSPAR launched a regional action plan on marine litter a few years ago. They also developed a series of indicators to assess the exposure of marine litter in the Northeast Atlantic. And so they've also made assessments which they report to, which make it much more easier for us to follow trends, for example. So these are the three main indicators. There are still a few others in development, like the impact on microplastics, but the ones which are currently being assessed are beach litter, seafloor litter, and fulmars. And so here you can see the picture of beach litter. You see the coastlines of Europe and the Northeast Atlantic and where they've been monitoring. Similar, we've done for seafloor, and you can see some higher spots around the Bay of Biscay here. And then lastly is the fulmars. We can see fulmars have also been assessed. These are birds flying over the North Sea, and they pick up a lot of the plastic items. So to end on a good note, not just give you some bad news, the issue has been noticed, luckily, and actions are building up towards a global agreement, because if we don't take care of this, and you can quite clearly see here in this study from Borrell what will be happening, we're currently dealing with around 20 million metric tons, but this will increase by a factor 10 in the next 30 years in terms of leakages. And so we will soon find ourselves in seas full of plastic, and we will just need a dedicated global agreement to control this problem. Not just because we are producing plastic, but the whole world is growing, and areas like Africa, for example, will be producing more and more plastic waste while development increases. We just need to act now. And that's all, folks. I hope it gave you a good background. Please feel free to ask me some questions.
Thank you, Thomas, for this showing the sense of urgency. That is very clear during your presentation. Questions are welcome indeed. Yolanda, did you receive any questions in the chat?
Hello, everyone. Nice to see so many familiar faces. Hello, I see some waves. Good to have you all on board. And yeah, I'm monitoring the chat. Little wave. And there's a question that is posed by Diana Dekker. And the question is, what current innovations are the best at the moment to successfully prevent microplastics in waters?
Okay, it's a difficult question because microplastic come in different shapes, sizes, and forms from different sources, as I highlighted. So the primary ones, I think we should get them out of the products. Often they don't really have a function. So why do we add them to toothpaste, soaps, or other types of elements if they don't have a clear function, or at least it's not proven that function? I think so the easy one is to get those out which shouldn't be there. That's the primary ones. The secondary is a bit more difficult. A lot of them come from car tire wear, and so we're going to have to deal better with grey water that flushes off our highways, for example. But also textiles play an important role. washing our clothes. And so we could there find solutions on the individual level by putting filters on washing machines. Might be complex. We could think about fitting houses or new houses which are built with better systems before it ends in the sewage system, or we could deal with it once it arrives in the sewage plants and we could get it out there. So it depends a bit on how much we want to invest. I don't think there is one solution that will fit all. We're going to have to look at what is most practical in certain regions. Retrospectively, fitting filters in older cities like Amsterdam might be difficult, but we could think about a combination of the ones I listed before to probably address it. And then, of course, stop the input of big plastic because that will also fragment.
Thank you for your response, Thomas. Yolanda, I think we have time for one additional question.
Yeah, thank you. Unless there is someone quickly posing a question now in the chat. There is a chat going on, but there's not another question as of yet. But please go ahead and ask your questions.
There are some remarks made on a Mentimeter, a question I've had put open. What is the main reason to tackle the plastic problem for you? And that is interesting to see future generation health of animals and humans, environmental health in general, to combat the diminishing ecological variety, public and environmental health. So it's clearly a health issue, and maybe one of the attendants can add something to that.
Children, did you have that in there? The next generation?
Next generation, the future generation. That's the same, I guess. So the health question is clear, and the main reason to tackle the problem is the future, the health, and the ecosystem.
Frank, thanks a lot for responding to this question. Thank you very much for asking all those questions and response, and especially Thomas, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I would like to go to the next presentation now, also regarding the state of affairs, and it is specifically about modeling. Ramiro Neves, Associate Professor of the Institute of Superior Técnico of Lisbon, will deliver this presentation. He has a special focus on modeling, and he is linked and also working for the Clean Atlantic project. But before we go there, Frank, we have also one of the Mentimeter questions there that you can address. What kind of Mentimeter question would you like to pose now? The floor is yours.
This is the question for the Menti moment of the presentation of Ramiro Neves. And he will answer the question on this in his presentation. Can fishing for plastics at sea be a solution for marine plastics? And the question is, do you believe it? Don't you believe it? Do you believe it in some coastal areas? Ramiro, you're sharing too fast. I have another screen. Yes, I'm back to see the answers. Do you believe in some coastal areas, most coastal areas, or could it be tackled this problem everywhere? And is it not really a problem to collect it at sea? And once we reach about 50 respondents, I think it's nice to hear Ramiro Neves reply on the ideas of our participants. Well, I think I give the floor to Ramiro Neves.
Okay, so hello, good afternoon. In fact, I am a modeler, as Frank said, and I've been working on the fight of plastics at sea in the framework of the Clean Atlantic project. And these are the two messages that I would like to pass to you, is to describe you what are the pathways and of the plastics at sea and the major accumulation areas, and to raise the question of the interaction between plastics and the biology. And so the Clean Atlantic project is an Interreg project from the Atlantic area, and it involves Portugal, Spain, France, UK, and Ireland. And the aim is to improve the knowledge and capabilities to monitor, prevent, and remove macroplastic or macro marine litter from sea. On the right side of the window, you can see the consortium that is led by SEPMA from Galicia. And I am working at the IST, that is the engineering school of the University of Lisbon. And I'm going to show the problem at three scales: the scale of the estuary, and the scale of the ocean. And as Thomas said, as it has been said, the plastics, they are produced on land, they go finally into the rivers, and then they reach the sea through estuaries. And in this animation, we are seeing how the plastics behave in the Tagus estuary. So we have on the right side the tidal flow. So we have in most Atlantic areas, we have a tidal flow. And on the left, we are seeing the plastic items that are being transported by this flow. So they are going in and out of the estuary, and slowly they are getting out. And when they are getting out, in this situation that we are seeing here, that is in summer, we are seeing the plastics going south. And some of them, they land at the beach. So they beach, as we used to say, and sometimes they go north, but most of the time they go south. And in the next, and so only some of the plastic items, they are trapped at the coast. So the idea that we have that the plastics, they remain at the coast, in our results, those are the plastics that we see, but most of them, they are not trapped at the coast. And yeah, we are seeing the same thing, but now with the 65 rivers over Europe, along the Atlantic coast of Europe. And we are seeing a simulation that lasts for 3 years. And we see the plastics being released by each river. They have a different color. And we see two destinations to measure destination for these plastics. Those that are released inside the North Sea, they go to the Arctic, and the others, they go south, and they go to the Sargasso Sea. And some of them, they enter into the Mediterranean area. And we see many colors, so which, as I said, each river is a different color. And in the Med Sea, we see mostly blue color. These blue color are the plastics that are emitted here in this Gulf in the south of Spain. And now, so we see that the plastics, they tend to move to two regions, to the Arctic and to the Sargasso Sea. And now we are going to see what will happen to the plastics that will be covering the whole Atlantic. So if the North Atlantic. So if we cover the whole North Atlantic with different plastics, as we see here in this image. So here we are not covering the North Sea. We have here different colors of plastic, and now we are going to let this plastic to move for 2 years, and we can see where they are going to and how they are getting there. And so this is what we are seeing here. We have here the Gulf Stream, the color blue and white show the currents, and we see that the plastic that were distributed uniformly, they tend to become patchy. And some areas, they tend to get clean, like this area here, and we will see that is the same thing for the north of Africa. And those plastics, they group into patches, and they go towards the Sargasso Sea. So that is what we used to see in the literature, and this is called the plastic island. And some of these plastics, they go to the Gulf of Guinea. And this area here got clean so this is an instantaneous emission, is not a continuous emission. The continuous emission was in the previous animation, and in the continuous emission shows where we can find the plastics. But if we stop today of emitting plastics, this would be the first areas to be cleaned. This and this area here in the north of Brazil. So the plastics, they tend to group into patches, and those patches, they tend to accumulate in this area. Now, knowing where the plastics they are going to and how they get there, we can start monitoring the model as we do in the field. And this is here the Arosa Ria in the Galicia, in this part of Spain here, and we see we have emitted plastics here, also from different rivers, and this here are the regions of accumulation along the coast, and according to the color, we can have more or less plastics there. Or we can do monitoring also at a continental scale. So here we are seeing Europe, and we are seeing the marine reporting units from MSFD, and so we have them here, and now we can see what are the rivers that are contributing to each of them. And for instance, the Shannon River from Ireland is contributing mostly for this region. The Thames River is contributing mostly for the North Sea, or the Seine River, the Seine, is mostly for contributing for the North Sea. Here we have the Guadalquivir. The Guadalquivir, I have shown it here before, and it is contributing a lot for the Med Sea and also for these areas there. And the Tagus River is contributing only for these areas there, and mostly for the areas that are here. So the darker is the color, the higher is the contribution. And so these regions, they are on the pathway of everything that is released here between Brest, the region of Brest, and southwards. Most of these plastics, they tend to go south, and they tend to pass here. And I've shown simulations for years, for 2 years or 3 years, and during 2-3 years, the biology tends to colonize these plastics, and so this is the kind of things that we see after some time. So these materials, these animals, they increase the density of these items, and these items they tend to sink. And this is, in my opinion, why we do not see more plastic in the Sargasso Sea. We know that the plastic is going there, and then it tends to sink. And this is something that we have seen also in Thomas' presentation, where he has shown plastics at the bottom, and he has shown that the maximum of plastics is in one slide is in the Biscay Gulf. And so here I'm showing this image showing that the plastics that we could see, and we do not see them so much. So this is because they are sinking. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Ramiro, for your interesting presentation. I can understand, because not everybody is a modeler of the audience or for the attendees, is that there will be a number of questions indeed. So Yolanda, you collected them all. Are there questions in your chat? Please let us know.
Yes, indeed. Let's have a look. We had a question from Marijke Boonstra on this particular topic. And the question is, have you also done simulations to do backtracking of plastics based on contribution of sources of litter found on riverbanks?
Yeah, we could do it, but because these particles, when they are moving due to a deterministic velocity that we are computing with the aerodynamic models, and also with a random velocity. So when we are doing backtracking, we have also to include this random velocity, and so for very long simulations, we add uncertainty, and it is not easy to do. So the backtracking is something that we can do in a short term, but not for years. So the way to go is to emit. If we want to know what is happening with the tables, with the sand, or with famous river, we have to emit on that river and to follow the particles forward and not backward.
Thank you for your answer, Ramiro. Is there another question, Landa?
Yes, indeed. We have quite a few. Sorry for the sound effect there. So we have another directed at Ramiro. Are there litter models for rivers as well?
Yes, we can do the models for any system, because for any system where we know the velocity, we can simulate the transport. So we can also do for rivers. I have not done it myself, but we can.
Okay, that is possible. Just we have time for one additional question, Landa. Then I would like to go to the next presenter. Do you have a third one?
Yes, we have quite a few. We have a question on a more on an earlier topic, which was posed by Bovien Wijfels. What can we do in legislation on an EU level, and can we expect some good impact from prevention?
Yeah, well, my opinion there is not like a model, but as a citizen. And I think prevention is a solution for most of the problems. And here, on plastics, I believe that the main result of these projects about plastics is to raise awareness and to increase prevention. Okay. And it has to be done at European level, in Europe, and I'd say at the global level, because there is only one ocean. And if we think, I've shown results for simulations that lasted for 3 years, and 3 years is nothing on the lifetime of a plastic. And so during the lifetime of a plastic, there are two things that can happen. Or it sinks due to biology, or it is trapped at the land interface, or otherwise it will travel along the world and it will go around the world. So this is a global problem. It's not a problem of a country or a continent.
Okay, thank you very much, Ramiro, for your answers. I think that we best could go to the next presenter. What has been done now is we have set the scene. So what is the nature, the gravity of the problem? How could it be modeled? How could we assess this kind of problems? And next we are just entering the solutions part of this. What can be done and what are future perspectives to address this? For that, we have invited Mr. Stefan van der Wal, Advisor Circular Economy of the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. I would like to stress again, in case of questions, use your chat again. And since the Mentimeter question is in the presentation of Stefan, I would like to invite Stefan to deliver the presentation. So the floor is yours, Stefan.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank Ramiro as well, because I completely agree with him as he says that prevention is probably a solution of most of the problem. And I think it is, and I'm going to tell you a bit what we do about it. So for now, future perspectives on waste-free rivers. And thank you very much for the opportunity that I could tell something about it, and especially about how we're going to do that, or how we are doing that in the Netherlands. First, a bit about myself. My name is Stefan, and I work for the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. And for the Dutch people in here, which are quite a lot, which I saw, I work for the executive organization that's called Rijkswaterstaat. And we're mainly focusing on our highways and our rivers. And since recent years, we also focus on how we can prevent plastics in these areas. Well, as a consultant on circular economy and litter prevention, I focus on preventing plastics, but I also focus on how we can get the behavioral psychology part in this, because I think for all the solutions and all the policies we're trying to make, we should set human central in there, because we are focusing on changing their behavior, and that's why we should focus on what they're doing. But first of all, I would like to start with a story about myself. Because 2 years ago, I was, before the Corona pandemic, I was surfing in Sri Lanka together with my girlfriend. And there we saw all these beaches. And as you see on the picture over here, these beaches were covered with plastics, with bottles, with everything. So together with a group of surfers, we went out there and we cleaned the whole beach, which was good. We did it together with the locals and we are very happy because we got some positive karma points. So it was a good day for us. But next day, the locals told us, well, we'll get rid of the waste, so that will be good. But next day at sunrise, we went out surfing again. So I was paddling through the sea with my surfboard. And then I saw a few of these bags floating around with all the waste in there. So I got the bags to the shore and I saw it was exactly the waste that we had been cleaning the day before. So what I did, I went to the local guys and asked them, what did you do? How did you get rid of the bags? And then they said to me, well, we can burn the plastics, but then all the tourists will start complaining that it's bad for the environment and it smells bad. The other option, we can throw it into the sea because the government doesn't arrange any system of recycling or getting rid of the plastic. So it's actually the only option for us. Well, I felt a bit sad about it. But the good thing is that it was for me that it was a reminder that cleaning will not be the only option. Of course, it's good to clean, but on top of that, we have to do a lot of preventive measures, and we should organize a system so that the waste collection system will be good as well. Well, I always keep that in mind when I'm working on the projects that I'm working on right now. So now it's time for the Menti moment, and I've got a picture in here. This is a picture of, I think, 2 weeks ago in riverbanks, and I'm glad to hear what you see in here when you see this picture. So you can go to the Mentimeter. We don't have to go to the answers yet because I will show it later. But you can go to the Mentimeter, use the code again if you close it, and just if you look at this picture, what's the feeling that you get, or which of the options is what you think is what you see in here? I come to it back to this later. So just a little bit on the Dutch policy on litter and clean rivers. I can talk for half an hour about this, but let's just give it just briefly. We have a Dutch Water Framework Directive, which is active since the 2000s till today. And it says we should focus on biological clean rivers, but plastics is not part in this yet. It is for the sea part, but it's not for the river part yet. Then since 2019, we're working on a program on source approach of microplastics. Together with a few colleagues of mine, we are trying to set up a good monitoring system because it's very important to know what's in the river, what's on the river banks, what's in the water, and what's in the mud on the bottom of the river. We're focusing on source approach measures, which I will be telling a bit more later. And we're focusing also on trying to find out if waste collection systems, the end-of-pipe solutions, if that will work out. Well, I saw in the program that Bubble Barrier will talk about this as well, together with the municipality of Amsterdam. It's also part of our program. On top of that, in the future, there will be, of course, extra policies from the EU as well, which I think will be, can be very helpful if we're focusing on the source approach. And that's the Single-Use Plastics Directive and the Extended Producer Responsibility, which I think we can, use these directives to focus on the actual producers, the actual source of the litter, and see if we can affect them. Well, then let's go to the prevention waste at the source and the project we do in the Netherlands, together with some help of volunteer projects of clean rivers, which Marijke Boonstra, for example, is one of them. We identified some sources of waste on our riverbanks. And one of the biggest ones is recreational litter, which will focus on litter. But on top of that, we also have a lot of waste coming from the industry and construction sites. As you see the big containers on the left, you can imagine if there's some wind, they will blow all the light materials out. We also have shipping, which might be a source of litter as well, recreational fishing. And we have also cities close to the river with the famous Dutch canals, which can also be a big source of litter as well. And the fun fact, or it was not actually a fun fact, but an interesting fact is that all the municipalities in the Netherlands, they pay about 250 million euros each year just to clean the litter. That's about 15 euros per person in the Netherlands. And it's not even enough because still litter is coming into the water and is getting via our rivers towards the sea. So it's still a big problem, but it's also a cost-effective problem. Well, then in the Netherlands, when we try to focus on these problems, we use a so-called integral approach, which means we use a good combination of cleaning, and cleaning goes via public management, as public space management, or by working together with volunteers, participation. And we also want to focus on prevention. So we want to make sure that there's enough bins that people can use to put in their waste. We need proper communication and some behavioral change. Where it's actually necessary, we need some law enforcement, so people that can give you fines when you're not doing the right thing. And of course, a source approach. So if there's like real easy sources that can be, for example, picked open by birds, the bags of litter that can be picked open by birds, that's a real easy source that can be prevented. So what we always say is you need a good combination of cleaning and prevention materials. And by doing that, you can actually solve the problem. So I'll show you one of the best practices, and we'll focus on recreational waste. And this is on the left is what you see what recreation on Dutch riverbanks looks like. Last few weeks it was good weather, then you see about 200-300 people sunbathing in here, which is very cool. But on the other side, you see this picture that you see on the right. This is like a few years after. It's actually the day after, and then we see a big mess. Well, actually, I'm now quite interested in what you said on the Mentimeter question. So Frank, could you come in with the Mentimeter results? And we might want to switch screens now, I think. Yes, so the thing you see, I see most of you said it's a sloppy situation. You say all the beginning is difficult, not bad for starters, and actually some of you say it's hooligans behavior. Well, I can agree with most of you, but let's go back to my screen again. What I see, what I say when I see this situation, I say it's almost the right behavior. I think I should start screening now. So this is my screen. So I'm actually quite happy that people didn't leave all that trash on the beach, but that they brought it towards the bin, because it's like the first step. It would be even better if they brought it home, because it was quite easy to bring all the beers and all the other stuff towards the beach. But I'm quite happy they actually took the opportunity to bring it towards the bin. And if we can change the capacity of the bin in here, or if we can change our system, then we can probably solve the problem. So that's what we did in here. On the beach you saw over here in the situation before, there was like a lot of people that just left all their stuff at the beach. There were not enough bins. You couldn't see the color of the bins because they were actually camouflaged. There was a lot of graffiti around it. So we all changed it, and this is what it looks like in the new situation. So all the bins, they got bright colors, so they actually stand out in the environment. We put in much more bins, so many more bins, so people can actually leave all the trash in the bins. On top of that, we also focused a bit on behavioral change. That's what you can see on the right. You can see a cow over there with a message on it. Well, thank you for keeping the river clean. And it's actually said from the cow, so it's not like the government saying it, but it's the cow asking you to, or thanking you for keeping the river clean. This is pretty much that we use to actually influence the behavior of the visitors of the beaches. And this is the results, and I think they were very striking, because what we did, we measured the visitor groups that were actually leaving waste behind when they left the beach. Well, before we actually did anything, it was 20% of the groups that left their stuff behind. And after we put in these measures, it was only 8%. So that's also very good. And then on the long term, so 1 year later, it was only 5% of the groups that left trash behind. So it's actually a reduction of 77%, which I think for an experiment, a field experiment, is very good. So we were very happy with this. And it was only at one of the beaches. We did these pilots and in some other beaches as well. One of them you can see over here, it's Playa del Campen. A similar beach, but here we use like an arch, a welcome arch, which is a behavioral change technique where you say, well, welcome to our beach, but we would like you to behave proper as well. And on the left, you see mobile bins. We placed them on the beach as well. We wrapped them with some beautiful stickers, but you can also see on there, there's a message with some kind of self-persuasion message in it. So we persuade people to find their own argument why they keep the beaches clean. And on the next slide, you see one of our other pilot beaches. So we use the same arch again, but then here it was not possible to place the bins on the beaches. So we gave the people like carton bags, paper bags that they could bring with them, which gave these people the opportunity to put in their waste and to bring the bags back towards the entrance where they can put them into the bins. You see on the bags as well, there's a message that says, well, thank you for choosing to keep our river clean. So we're also persuading people to help us actually to keep the rivers clean. And the good thing is I can show you graphs again, but this is actually a good picture of the last pilot. Volunteers were helping us to keep the beaches clean. So on the left side, you see a wheelchair with all the waste they gathered after like just one busy day. And after we placed the interventions, it was only like a handful of rubbish that was left over there. And you see on the graph again, it's 75% reduction of waste. So we're very happy with the result that we see over here as well. So now we come to the big dilemma. Now this is the dilemma we heard at the beginning in the introduction movie as well. So who is responsible for cleaning the litter on these beaches? Because the yellow part you see here, that's actually well, the part that my organization Rijkswaterstaat is working for. We are responsible for the rivers and like just a little part of the riverbank as well. Then there's the green part. In most situations is for example an NGO that's focusing on biodiversity and maintaining the nature in there. But well, normally cleaning the area is not part of their responsibility either. And then you have the municipality over there on the other side of the river. That's actually where all the people are from. But the area where they are recreating right now, it's not their area. So they are not responsible for cleaning it. So who's going to pay for everything? Because if you have to clean every day, it costs a lot of money. If you have to place the bins, it costs a lot of money. If you need the paper bags and everything, it costs a lot of money. Well, the good thing in these areas and in the pilots we did is that if you work together with all the people involved, you can find a solution. So if you work together and you split the cost, so we pay, for example, we paid for the containers, for the bins. The municipality, they were going to collect the garbage. Volunteers are helping us to clean it. So that's a good way, I think, to solve this problem. So I was very happy about that. And if I go to the next slide, yes, then this is actually what I want to give you home. So if you want to focus on cleaning the rivers, if you want to focus on prevention, try to make sure that you prevent it first, but that you have a good combination of cleaning and preventing the litter actually to exist. The second one is if you want to do something about recreational use, well, make sure it's not only cleaning that you do, but make sure you use good arches, good bins, and facilitate people actually in doing the right behavior. And the third one is work together with volunteers, work together with all the people and the parties involved, and then you can definitely solve the problem if you want to. Well, if you want to know more, for the Dutch people among us, we have an approach on clean riverbank recreation. And for the non-Dutchies, if you try Google Translate, I tried it, then you will actually get a good solution. So I would definitely recommend you to download it. And if you have any other questions, just contact me and send me an email. But there probably will be many more questions in the chat. So if we have time, then we can answer them. But in the meantime, I would like to thank you at least for the attention.
Thank you, Stefan, for your very interesting presentation. Just a little challenge. We also have a panel here. We have also, of course, the chat questions that Yolanda has, but just one question in between. What I would like to ask is, we have a number of political representatives of the number of organizations that you just addressed, Stefan. How do the three organizational levels see the actions being taken at this moment by the ministry? So what do you do yourself concretely as, for instance, a water board, a municipality and a province? I'm very curious to hear about that. So could you please answer that? The three panelists we have at the table. Should I give the floor first, for instance, to the water board? Is that an option? Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, if you could, I'm very curious to hear what you...
Well, we have an innovation fund. And from that innovation fund, we had a couple of years ago, 2016, we were the first water board in Holland who put plastics on top of the list. So we know the problem. And we have, from that innovation board, we have helped somebody to start up a plastic, how do I call it, spoon. So the plastic spoon is going into the water on the hot spots where the plastic is floating to, and is removing it. So that's one of the options you can do. And because of the water board, we have a lot of knowledge about the movement of the water and the wind ways. So we can help by finding out the way the plastic is going to be. So that's good to find out with Steven.
Okay, that's good. Just would one of you also would like to reflect on what has been said, also by Stefan, and also linked to the water board?
Well, we as municipality, of course, we are committed to keep the public area clean, and not so clear what we have to do with the water and the rivers that we have in our municipality. So we have to combine our forces also with the government to see how we can deal with that, and also for the finance, because for municipalities it's always the finance that's the matter where we are dealing
funding
with.
money is always a challenge everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the province, how do you look?
Yes, well,
at
we
the problem?
have our own waterways, so we also collect, and we have started investing even more in collecting waste from our own rivers. But I think it's really important, as Stefan said, to work together in this problem too. It's maybe a part of the puzzle we need to tackle is how to work together, so we can solve the problem. And I think we, as a regional government, we can address that and help connect local government and also Rijkswaterstaat together to tackle this.
Okay, thank you very much for the response to this spontaneous question. There are questions, of course, addressing Stefan himself as well. So Jolanda, what kind of questions did you receive so far that you could share with us now?
Yes, I'm able to share quite a few. And there's an interesting chat going on in the chat between participants. So they're having a chat amongst themselves and answering questions. So it's a lively chat. Thank you for that. And great activity in the online chat. One of the questions directed at Stefan is from Tobias, and it's about considering the integral approach. Why is extended producer responsibility not a part of it? Think, of course, of Coca-Cola or Nestle.
Yeah.
That was his question.
Very good question. And it actually is part of it. It's part of the source approach where we like to focus on. So where actually we have the influence to for example, influence the producers that are producing some of the materials that are into the river right now, we'll definitely focus on that as well. So it is there, but it's part of source approach.
Okay. Other question?
Another question is from Marijke Boonstra. There's actually a lot of compliments for all the presentations from the last few speakers, actually. But Marijke Boonstra starts with a comment as well, saying, "Great work, Stefan." And then she asks, "Are the pilots continued and are they cost effective?"
Yes, that's a very good question. Thank you, Marijke. In many of the cases, they are continued because, well, all the municipalities, they're very happy with the results. Like I said, 75% reduction is a lot, especially in field experiments. And in 3 out of the 4 pilots, we are continuing with it. And for pilot number 4, we're actually looking for the difficult part is finding the money, because it's always difficult. But we're trying to find a solution as well. We're actually trying to scale up these pilots as well.
Great. Additional question, Jolanda?
Yes, we have a question from Maya, and she's asking, is stopping the production of plastics altogether not being discussed at any level of governance?
That's a good question. We didn't discuss it yet because it was not the assignment we were given. But well, yeah, this might be a topic to discuss for sure, yeah.
Okay. Then I would like to close this session of questions. We have to go to the next presenter. In case you still have questions left in the chat, we will address those, depending on the number, of course. So thank you very much for your active participation so far. Now we would like to go to prevention as well. We have, of course, prevention and end-of-pipe solutions also on our agenda today. And regarding this presenter measures plastic-free islands and some more topics is going to be addressed by Dr. Dorothea Seger of Bund, the Friends of the Earth Germany, the Marine Office. She works there. She's a marine biologist with a specialization in coastal ecology and working on marine litter and waste prevention. Ask your questions still as usual, as I normally do. And now I would like to ask Frank Do you have a Mentimeter moment for us, please?
Yes, of course, we have a Mentimeter moment. And this is the question Dorothea will address. And she has the question to the attendees. How often have you taken your own food packaging to a takeaway instead of taking the single-used material they normally provided you to? So how often have you taken your own food packaging to a takeaway? Please give your votes. And it could be always, it could be interesting, it could be unhygienic, or it's not allowed. And you might think it's no way. And you wonder how we could ask that. So we have, well, it's interesting, never no way. Well, I'm sorry for asking then. This is a lot of people think it's an interesting option, and there are a lot of people who always take it. Just one saying it's not very hygienic, and I think Dorothea will respond to this, will reply on this response. And we wait a little for the last people to vote. Okay, Dorothea, I give you the word. This is the outcome of this small questionnaire at the attendees.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. I'll just start sharing my screen. Now I hope you can see my screen. Yeah, thank you, Frank, for the Menti moment, and I'm looking forward to the presentation now. And thank you, Mike, for the introduction and also for the invitation to talk to you about preventive measures. And as Mike said, I work in the Marine Protection Office of BUND, and we at BUND are Friends of the Earth Germany, and thus also part of the Friends of the Earth network. And we're also a member of Coalition Clean Baltic and Seas at Risk, so depending on where our work is focused on, so in the Baltic Sea region or the North Sea region. And the title of my talk is Towards Plastic-Free Coasts, What Can Be Done at the Local Level? And in our work on marine litter and waste prevention, we like to use the term plastic-free coasts, as we think this is a really good goal to aim for, even though we might be far away from that goal at the moment. And to reach our goal of plastic-free coasts, we at BUND work together with people on the ground. These are our members or other volunteers that are passionate about the oceans, coastal municipalities, other activists and NGOs. And we also work together with hosts and landlords. And you may ask, why landlords? And I want to start to telling you a small or short story. Just imagine you're planning your next holiday on a North Sea island. They are in the middle of the Wadden Sea, at least the German islands. They are in the middle of a national park and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And what you will imagine may look something like this. A pristine beach, some dunes, waves, birds in the sky, seals in the sea, and seashells to look out for while strolling along the beach. But reality at some North Sea beaches may rather be this. Water bottles, packaging of snacks and household items, containers, plastic cups, fishing nets, you name it. So your holiday may quickly turn into a trash hunting holiday. And in fact, when my husband and me were on our honeymoon called Flitterwochen in German a couple of years ago, one day at the beach, he renamed them into Litterwochen because we found so much litter. So we heard already it's not only about picking up litter, but it's important to go back to the source and to not just promote cleaning up. BUND has come up with the idea of plastic conscious holiday homes. And here is where the landlords come in. Plastic conscious holiday homes are equipped with things to reduce your plastic use while on holiday. bags for buying unpacked veggies, lunch boxes to take your homemade lunch to the beach, or ask the guy at the takeaway to fill your food into the box. Reusable cutlery, to skip the single-use ones, water bottles, so you can just drink the delicious tap water, and maybe even a pocket ashtray if you're a smoker or up for some more litter picking. And with that, people on holiday can do more than just picking up litter to help the oceans. They can start skipping plastic. They can try out ways to reduce plastic while they are on holiday and take it home back to their everyday life. And with the plastic conscious holiday homes, this is very easy. They are equipped with a leaflet informing how to go plastic free and with lists of local shops and restaurants where you can shop plastic free. And this can, for example, be places where you can fill up your own water bottle with the refill sign, or where you can bring your own packaging. And with this symbol here, shops that are really happy to take your own, brought in packaging, they can have the sticker on their door and make it visible. But it's always worth asking for if it's allowed to do that or do it. And it could also be places that have their own reusable systems already for coffee to go or for food to have really reusable options. And so while being on holiday, people can become plastic freer themselves and help to move towards plastic-free coasts to finally reach this picture again. And the plastic conscious holiday homes are just one example what can be done at the local level to reduce plastic. And we at BUND also work closely with the German Roundtable on Marine Litter, especially on how to involve local authorities to reduce plastic waste. And funded by the Ministries for the Environment of the City-State of Bremen and the City-State and the State of Lower Saxony, and a sub-working group of the German Roundtable on Marine Litter, we collect good practices and also look at the legal options for local authorities to tackle plastic pollution through local legal provisions. And we published 2 guidebooks on these issues. And generally, what can municipalities or local authorities do? They can, and we heard some of that already by Stefan just before. And what can municipalities do? They can support reuse systems. They can reduce plastic through greener public procurement, and they can be active within awareness raising and proper beach waste management and collection. And I think especially towards the 2 last bits, we heard really good examples from Stefan just now. And in the following, I want to give you a short glimpse of the content of these 2 guidebooks. So first look at some of the examples from the best practice guide. And here we are focused on general options, but also on specific problematic items that we know that we find a lot on the beaches. And the first example I want to show you is about cigarettes. They're among the most frequently found items on European beaches. The filters consist of plastic and are full of pollutants. And one way to deal with cigarettes is to make it really attractive to dispose them properly and not just throw them in the sand. And here you can see the so-called ballow bins. And by casting your cigarette butt in these bins, you can cast your vote. So on top of these boxes, there's a question. And then depending on where you put your vote, you answer the question, a little bit like our Menti moments with Frank. So here the question is, should smoking be prohibited at the beach? And then you can say yes or no. Another example are fireworks and the plastic that is released through them. And some municipalities have large central fireworks so that the waste can be managed better. Another option is to do something totally different. At the island of Spiekeroog, public buildings were illuminated in beautiful colors, creating a more quiet but much cleaner and also still colorful New Year's Eve. And the third example is on how to deal with balloons. The problem is that balloons released into the air will ultimately come down and end as litter possibly being eaten by a seabird also. So at the final event of the large church conference Kirchentag in 2019, balloons were still used as a symbol of thoughts and prayers that rise up, but the balloons stayed connected to the ground by using ropes and threads. I don't know if you can see that on the picture. And they made sure that the balloons were taken down afterwards and disposed of properly. So these are just 3 good examples from the best practice guidebook. And we heard already a lot on waste collection, and I just want to give you this short glimpse on how waste prevention or waste collection can look like in Germany. And I want to point out that there can be really easy options to make rubbish bins safer and bird safer, or really technical ones or really creative ones. And while those good examples can be found in the report on the left, another report looks at the legal options for local authorities to tackle plastic pollution through local legal provisions. And one question that is often asked is, can single-use plastics be banned on the local level? Can there be a general ban? Can the municipality say, in our city, we do not want single-use plastics anymore? But the short answer is no. But local authorities can make use of public law and private law to demand reusable systems or ban single-use plastics. They can do that through, for example, market statutes or also general terms and conditions in contracts. If the building in question or the market in question is a public one. And if that is the case, they can demand the use of reusable system or ban single-use plastics. So this is at least the case in Germany. And so you may ask, are these guidebooks also available in English? And I want to say not yet. There might be translations later on, but our fabulous colleagues at Seas at Risk have collected more than 150 examples from all over Europe and put them in an interactive map. And I'm very happy to give you a sneak peek on the map today. This is how the map will look like, and it will be launched on the 1st of July. And then you can see more than 150 good best practices everywhere where you can see the blue dot as one example. And the map will be available in 11 languages, and examples can be filtered by country, by type of measure, or type of entity or who adopted the measure. And I want to quickly show you 2 examples. The first is from the Netherlands, as the event today is based in the Netherlands. So the Mission Reuse is a partnership between the 3 Dutch NGOs recycling networks, Stichting Natuur en Milieu and NVU. And the slogan is, we make reusables the new normal in everyday life. And another example is the greener public procurement of the city of Oslo that is really looking at preventing single-use plastics with the public procurement. And you will find a map under this address shown here, and you will also find a report summarizing all the good examples. And so we see there are many ways how plastic can be reduced at the local level, and I hope I could give you some ideas where to start. So I think we really have the choice. Do we choose single-use plastics, or do we choose reusables and have prevention in place? Thank you.
Vielen Dank, Dorothea. Thank you for your concrete examples that you have shown and shared with us. Very, very interesting to hear. And I think that will also trigger some questions from the audience. So the attendees might have sent some questions to Yolanda, to the chat. So Yolanda, what did everybody share with us?
Yes, there's quite a lot going on in the chat again. And one specific question directed at Dorothea is from Sylvia Speert. She's asking, Ms. Seger, is there cooperation between Bund and Wasserverbände on the topic of river litter? And is Bund doing monitoring of river litter or thinking about doing this?
Yeah, so we do work together, or we also work on river litter, not only on marine litter. So especially in the city of Bremen, where our marine office is based, we work a lot with different local actors, and I think we're but I'm not sure if, no, I don't think we're working specifically together with the Wasserverbände, so to say. It's more we're looking at the stuff that is really on the river banks, and this is within the city is more in. It's the city that is responsible for that to some extent. But yeah, so we work together with them, and we are not doing specific monitoring. We're doing regular cleanups, but this is not. We are not really doing any monitoring there.
Okay, thank you very much. We had time for only one question. The other ones will be included in the chat. We will go from prevention to end-of-pipe solutions, the Great Bubble Barrier and Plastic City. There is Francis Soet and Constance Steenkamp that will present a presentation on this. Fill our chat session with questions, please continue with that. And Frank, do you have a Mentimeter moment for now for us, please?
Of course, I have a Mentimeter moment for Francis and Constance as well. They address the question to ask. They ask for take a guess of how much plastic waste is collected in Amsterdam each month. So in 1 month, how much plastic waste is collected in the canals? Is it 1 truckload or 2 warehouses or 3 soccer stadiums or 4 buildings like the European Parliament? Please give your votes. Hey, something goes wrong because I have a... Ah, there we are. Well, I'm sure that Francis and Constance can give the true answer. But
actually, Frank,
warehouses are enough. I'm afraid it's not enough. Okay, I give the word to Francis.
I have to say, I won't give you the answer just yet, but Constance will in a little bit of time. Hello, everyone. I'm Francis Soet. I'm the operational director and one of the co-founders of the Great Bubble Barrier. I see some familiar faces among the crowd, but I'm here to tell you a little bit about our bubble barrier system and to talk about our project in Amsterdam together with Constance. But first, a little introduction on our system. The bubble barrier is a bubble curtain that blocks plastic in rivers from moving towards the ocean. We place a tube on the bottom of a river. That's a perforated tube, and we press air through it, and that creates a curtain of bubbles moving upward. The upward current brings suspended plastics to the surface, and litter that's already on the surface is being blocked by the bubble curtain and guided by the natural flow to the side of the river, where we collect it and remove it. And this way we can form a barrier that blocks plastic continuously while we allow ship traffic to pass. We allow fish to pass, and we can still capture over the full width and quite some of the depth of the river. We have piloted this technology now 5 times. For Amsterdam, we count as our fifth pilot project, specifically a pilot for the municipality of Amsterdam, not so much for our technology anymore. But the bubble barrier continuously collects material from 1 millimeter up to 1 meter, and our pilots have shown that we can catch 86% of our test material. So that's a really nice number that we're really proud of. And with that, I think it's time to introduce our system in Amsterdam. It's an operational system. This is a video, so I can actually show you the bubbles move, but I think it's a little bit, yeah, it's not really moving great, I think, on the Zoom transmission. It's located close to the central station in Amsterdam. So if you want to have a look, please come visit. You're all very welcome. It's one of the locations where the Amsterdam canals enter the IJ. So it's a great location for blocking waste coming from the city moving in the direction of the North Sea. And besides that, it's also great for increasing awareness because it has such a central location, and of course to showcase our solution to other interested cities and regions. So what do we catch? This is a sample of what we've been catching over the past year. It ranges from small styrofoam balls to cigarette butts, and of course a lot of packaging material. The amount of catch is still being researched together with the Plastic Soup Foundation. So Waternet has given the assignment to the Plastic Soup Foundation to monitor, weigh, sort everything according to the OSPOR method. We have had some delay because of the corona in the sorting, but we hope to have our results by June 2022 definitively. But we can already say that we have to empty the catchment system 3 times a week right now, which is more than we expected. And then we got the question to define a little bit more where a bubble barrier can be placed. So bubble barrier is a very scalable solution, but we can place it best in a specific set of waterways. That means that we focus on rivers with ship traffic, which are up to 10 meters in depth, maximum 200, 250 meters in width, and with a maximum flow between 0.5 and 1 meter per second. This really depends on the location. So we, of course, want to focus as well on the most polluted rivers in the region. And of course, we think it's just as crucial to catch plastic as to increase awareness, which is why we focus on densely populated areas. These usually generate the highest waste load, but also have this great potential of creating more awareness. Being in cities, we are close to the source, so we can capture consumer plastics before they sink to the river floor. It also has a little bit higher quality if it wants to be, if it can still be recycled. And cities also have easier access to the waste and energy net, which makes sure that the waste doesn't end up in the river again, like Stefan just told in his story. So these are quite some characteristics. If you have a location you're thinking of, we can do a quick scan. My colleague Leander is here, but I can also show you a link to our site if you're interested. We can also provide a price indication with such a location quick scan, but to give you some sense of cost, because we've been asked to tell you, the Amsterdam bubble barrier has a CAPEX, so an investment cost of 350,000 euros. It should be considered as a water infrastructure project. So we have a lot of permit applications as well, of course, to consider. That's included in this pricing. So it's the whole installation. Larger rivers are closer to 600 to 800,000 euros. What can you do? There's of course a high urgency in plastic pollution, and we're talking a lot about policy today. So of course, that's also something that we notice. If we want to place a bubble barrier somewhere and there's a local initiative, they often bump into not finding a hook in policy or regulation to actually make it happen. So there is finance available, or we're still looking for some part of relevant budget. But if there's no policy available or no budget, then it's challenging. So to put this also locally on the agenda and to make budgets to actually make this happen, that is a significant contribution to implementing solutions right now. But we also see that if people take action, they find a way to make it happen. So there's a lot of projects we're working on that have been started by local initiatives. So this is something every citizen can do, and we see that that's actually generating a lot of effect. And with that, I would like to introduce Constance from the municipality of Amsterdam. there is a video from the Plastic Smart Cities initiative that Constance is in charge of in the city of Amsterdam that we want to show first, and then we move. I'll introduce Constance a bit further.
Thank you, Francis, for introducing one of the most important initiatives of the last 3 years, I think, the bubble barrier. But can you tell us what was the birth of the bubble barrier, and when was the birth of the bubble barrier?
Yeah, I think this is a story that we've been telling a lot, and it kind of speaks to the imagination. We came up with the idea in 2015 when we were sitting in a cafe brainstorming about solutions to the plastic problem. We were sailors, and we were looking at our glasses, and we saw the bubbles, and we were thinking, maybe we can do something with bubbles. Of course, it related to previous knowledge that we had, but we always like to relate to the best ideas you have in a cafe while looking at your glass with a drink. So maybe that will inspire more solutions like ours in the future. We had a question for you as well, Constance.
Okay.
Because we would like to know, I mean, I think I know a little bit, but what moved Amsterdam to start a bubble barrier? Because it means a lot for us as well to have our first long-term pilot project here in Amsterdam. But how did you get to this point?
Yeah, Amsterdam is a city with 400 kilometers of water, canals, and so on. And there's a lot of filth in the water. And I was on an evening in one of our beautiful buildings, Pakhuis de Zwijger in Amsterdam. And then there I heard from the Great Bubble Barrier first time, and I was impressed, really. And one of my jobs was how can we make Amsterdam less plastic soup, less plastics in the water, less garbage in the water. So when I saw this, the bubble barrier, and I saw your presentation, and I saw you guys, young group of students also then, of not anymore students, but you were investigating this problem with the bubbles and the plastics in the water. I thought we should give them a chance in Amsterdam to make it happen, the dream make it through. So we started a conversation also with Waternet, the organization who is responsible for cleaning the water in Amsterdam. And we started the collaboration with you and Waternet, and we want to do it. So our enthusiasm was there, the necessary was there, and our municipality also want this bubble barrier in one of our canals. And it is a big success till now.
And I think there's also, I see a lot of questions in the chat, maybe popped up, sorry for that. Some regarding the energy use of the bubble barrier. For reference, the bubble barrier in Amsterdam has a 7.5 kilowatt compressor. So I think that gives some idea. The fish topic, there's a lot of questions about that. So what we've seen is that the majority of river fish, especially larger fish, have no issue with swimming through bubbles. However, we want to be more specific. I want to learn more about this. And we have set up a research in collaboration with, or actually Waternet has set up a research. We are only a bystander together with Ravon to learn more about the small fish species, so especially larvae, etc. And there will be a follow-up on that, I think, sometime this year. We do have a summary on all known ecological aspects and influences of the bubble barrier on our website, and also my colleague Leander can help you with this.
Much for the presentation, and Constance as well. Just a question regarding Yolanda, because she's also keeping an eye on all the chat questions there. What kind of other questions popped up, Yolanda, that are for interest to the audience at the moment? Could you please share that with us?
Yes, of course. Interesting that we now have a duo presentation as well, taking over my job. No, it's perfect. Doing a great job. Thank you, Francis. Yeah, there was another question. Well, about the fish passage, which you mentioned, and the energy used. But there was also a question about, are there any negative effects using the bubble barrier? So that might be one that could be answered. And I have one more. It's about, it would be good to have some data on what kind of items and how much is not floating and therefore suspended or rolling in the riverbed, and the effectiveness on such items. For instance, would a plastic bottle make it from the bottom to the surface of the barrier, or would it just pass through? Two questions there.
Yeah, I can answer them both. I think the negative effects of the bubble barrier, at the moment, we don't see negative effects yet. I think that's maybe good to always set as a boundary. It has energy use. We need to be very aware of that, of course, and make sure we buy green energy. We do also catch organic matter, which in some rivers might not be ideal, but added benefit is that we add oxygen to usually low oxygen waters, which improves ecological standards. So right now, that's the most detail I can give. But there's a lot of research still ongoing. You can also keep an eye out on the Milestone project, which is an international EU project where we also research more of these questions. And the second question was on, can we also capture material that's on the floor? Short answer, no. If it has sunken, we're not going to be able to move it all the way up. We only will be able to move it up if it's suspended in the water column. We do see that there's a heap of trash in front of the bubble barrier in Amsterdam. We still have to figure out together with Waternet if we want to scoop that up at some point, because yeah, it does gather there because there's a bit of a barrier.
Much for your response, Francis and Constance as well. We have time for a Mentimeter moment at this very moment. So Frank, what do you have? But before we go there, I would like to announce as well, the next part of the program will be about what is your contribution to the solution, of course, the politicians will do that with a kind of a puzzle. We show that to you later on. But also think about the solution you, as attendee of this conference, could provide to the problem. So you can also fill that out after this Mentimeter moment as well. But think about it and be prepared to type it in. Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to share a Menti moment with some facts of how well do we know the problem we have with plastics. But the first question is, you've just heard the bubble barrier. Would you be interested to have a bubble barrier installed in your region or by your organization? The question can be, when can we start? There's some people who say so and some say not for me. Maybe you think about it or you talk about it, and maybe you just want to know more about it. I see that it's nicely, there's a lot of interest, Francis, so I think it would be good to make contact afterwards in the after talks between 5 o'clock and 5:30 to make more contact and get more information. And I see a lot of options for more bubble barriers. 29% wants a bubble barrier, Francis. So that's interesting. I go to the next question. Now we get to the facts on plastics. What is the amount of plastics we eat in average every day, every week, per week? Do you have any idea? Is it a fingernail, a credit card, a matchbox, or even a complete teacup? So we can see of how well you are informed. Nobody goes for the teacup? Well, that's a bit of a disappointment. Ah, there's somebody. That must be the extraterrestrial. Well, this is, it's about a credit card week. So I won't spoil it, but half of the people were right. So a fingernail, it's about a credit card in average, of course. And what is the danger of plastic consumption to humans? That's a question. Well, will it accumulate in organs, then causing obstruction? Will it, the micro and nanoplastics enter cells, thus disrupting functionality? And you can give multiple answers. Are the additives poisonous, or is there no danger because it doesn't stay in your body? A lot of questions coming in. Especially now I mentioned that you can give multiple answers. And again, the extraterrestrial thinks it's no danger. It won't stay in your body. The interesting thing is that actually it's not clear what it does, but all the answers are right. We are not sure about it, but there's a reason to be precautionary, as we have products in the past that we thought were wonderful, like PFAS or even DDT, and they proved not to be that good as well. So we should be precautionary. Another fact question: in how many years is expected that there will be more plastic than organisms in the ocean? In how many years the volume will be more in plastics than in organisms? So how urgent is it? Do we have another 15 years before, or 30 years, or 50 years? 75 years, that's the optimistic answer. The pessimistic answer is 15 years. The estimation is about 30 years, so in 2050. But then again, we have to take action now, because all plastics produced today will be there in 2050 as well. I go to another one. What percentage of plastic is just used once? Still, it's an estimation. Is it 30, 40, 50, or 60%? Just the single-use plastics, where we talked about a lot. They're polluting a lot. And I see a lot of people fear it's 60%. If you look at publications, they're not completely consistent, but it's about 50%. So luckily the 60, we are a little bit pessimistic, but still 50% is an awful lot. And we should look especially at that single-use plastics, because a lot of that easily goes wasted into litter. And talking about recycling plastic, how much of the plastics produced worldwide since 1950 is recycled? How much? 7%, 10%, 14%, or maybe even 90%? And Thomas mentioned a percentage, and that was more of how much is recycled today. And this is overall. And what's interesting is to know that about over 50% is just waste on landfills. So it's still there and might come out. And the answer of 7% is the correct one. Only that is recycled. About 10% is being burned and 20%, 29% is still in use. A fun fact, plastics are produced since the 19th century. Not just after 1950, but in the 19th century. What was the first important plastic? Was it celluloid, bakelite, radium or viscose, or rubber? This is an interesting, well, somebody goes for celluloid and for viscose. Well, this is really an interesting one. I was surprised to find the answer. Bakelite is not from the 19th century, but the early 20th century, but it was rubber. It was actually so we're quite good informed that it was rubber and then celluloid. Now we get an interesting one. Who is responsible and who has to take action? You can, by each of the 9 mentioned groups, say between 1 and 10 of how important their role is to take action and to take their responsibility. Is it for the producers? Is it for the consumers, the non-governmental organization? Has it to be cleaned up by waste and water organizations? Is it a governmental thing, regional, national, or international? And what will you do? How big is your responsibility? And can you take action? And we get a really interesting figure. We see a lot of interest for producers and national government. And still, most people take their own responsibility in account as well. So this is really interesting, and not for the non-governmental organization who often ask for attention for the problem, of course, despite that it's not their responsibility, according to you. My final question will be an open question, and it will stay open for the next half hour. And you can add what you're gonna do about the plastic problem the coming year. Please notice your name as well, so we can come back to you in a year and ask, how did you succeed? And when I ask, what will you do? It's also your organization. So please keep on posting in the Mentimeter as you did before. And I'll give the floor back to Mike for the last part of the program with the panel.
Thank you, Frank. Very good to hear this. Now we have the digital puzzle. So it is, of course, it comprises of all kinds of components, the solution to this very complex problem. So what should we do and what could we do? Now that is why we have asked the politicians present, but also online present. There are more there where we will further explore. And we will start with the panel first here. And I would like to ask the contribution, the first one, of Sita Pels, Regional Minister of the Province of North Holland. So what is your solution to the problem? What piece of the puzzle would you like to take?
Yes, well, thank you, Mike. I think low-grade use of plastics, mostly single-use, should be banned. It doesn't fit in our new circular economy. And as a province, we stimulate companies with finance, but also with different programs to make new products, more sustainable products. And we also address nationally, but also on a European level, the legislation that is needed to be circular in the future, and to have a new tax system, because at the moment we have a high tax on labor and a low tax on raw materials, and we think it should be the other way around, and we should have a high tax on raw materials, so we will become more circular, and lower on labor. And we think we really need innovation for the problem that is current at the moment. We have seen how big the plastic soup already is, but we are also facing a new problem in the future with Africa coming up using more plastic. So we need to address the current problem, but also the future problem, and we need innovation to do that. So that's our piece of the puzzle.
Thank you very much, Sita. Then we go to the municipal level. We have more municipal, but then the association. You, as alderman of the Zaanstad municipality, what is your part of the puzzle? How does that look like?
Yes, thank you. Well, as we see that the environment of people and also the animals, of course, and we see it also in the presentation that we had today, everyone suffers from plastics pollution. So as a municipality, we are committed to keep the public space clean. And in addition to that regular removal of waste by the municipality, many volunteers are committed in our municipality to keep the streets and the nature clean. And in addition, we try to encourage also residents to separate their waste as much as possible and collect it all over the municipality and ensure proper waste of processing. And however, we also see that it's not always possible to prevent litter, and more action is required, and we will pay specific attention at places, hotspots we call them, where litter from land reaches the water, and how we can remove it from the water and the water sites. The municipality of Zaanstad takes care of the removal of all litter on the streets, but that's not enough for us. And that's why we have to join forces, and we can ensure a reduction of plastic waste that ends up in the sea to our rivers. All over the world, in any city or town, we must have clean rivers, so to ensure a sustainable future for all of us, also for our children who are the keepers of this planet, of course. And we do this by taking our responsibility and making it a common problem for us all. And therefore, I call on all of you to work together and to investigate what opportunities exist. And let's look at innovations in the field of plastic waste removal, such as the bubble barrier, which we enjoyed here in the presentation at the municipality of Amsterdam uses today. And together we can take that steps for a cleaner world.
Thank you very much, Gerard. Since you are representing a municipality, I go to a municipal organization as well, my own, before I go to the next panel list. So I go to Jerry Ahlström, president of KEMO, Association of Coastal Municipalities. Jerry, you as president of KEMO, what would you like to do as organization?
Thank you, Mike, for this very inspiring webinar. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Plastic litter is one of the biggest global problem of our time. Rivers are one of the most significant pathways for plastic waste from the land to reach our coasts and seas. All of us have a duty and an obligation, both individually and corporately, to do what we can to prevent waste from finding its way into our rivers, and proper waste management is the key. Rivers should not be plastic highways. KEMO is an association of municipalities from 8 European countries who work together to prevent marine pollution and to protect and enhance our marine environment. Our members are tired of plastic litter and the harm it causes to our wildlife, our ecosystem, our fisheries, our economies, and our recreation, and we are taking actions to address it. KEMO will undertake to produce guidelines and best practice example for municipalities on how to plan and implement effective municipal waste strategies, from public procurement to circular waste management, from singular-use plastic to microplastic particles. We intend that this guidance should make a positive difference to our marine environment by reducing the amount of waste that flows down our rivers and end up in our seas. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Jerry. Now we go to the Water Board, Waterboard Hollands Noorderkwartier. Klaasien Hartog.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, HNK Noorderkwartier stands for Clean and Healthy Surface Water. So cleaning the waterways is part of our daily job. So in every part of our town, of our way, we see the plastic coming up. We have to think about the small plastics, because the big ones we can get out, but the smallest one we can't get out. The microplastics is another part of the problem. It's also another problem. But I think we have to work together, and we think about how to take the next step. And first of all, I think we have to do some research about where it's coming from. And if we know the hotspots, then we can talk with government, with companies to reduce the litter, because otherwise we can't do it. We can't do it alone. We are already cleaning the environment, but it's not enough. So we have to work together.
Part of the puzzle cooperation. Thank you, Klaasien. I now go to Esme Leitch, if I pronounce it properly, I hope, youth representative of CPMR North Sea Commission. The floor is yours.
Perfect, thank you very much. I'm the Youth Advisor for the North Sea Commission. I'm really pleased today to be able to hand over the floor to two young members of our Youth Advisory Group who will present our part of the puzzle.
We, as the North Sea Youth Committee, commit to increasing awareness of the marine litter crisis to our peers. This will include educating other young people and promoting action to reduce marine litter in their local communities. Awareness raising will be achieved using existing youth participation networks and through our youth conference, where we have decided marine litter will be one of the topics covered. We greatly worry ourselves about the predicament we currently find ourselves in, caused exclusively by human activity on the environment, such as our incessant marine littering, which consequently necessitates a comprehensive, coordinated, and collective approach, not only interregionally, but also on an intergenerational scale. And instead of reinventing the wheel, one of the ways by which such intergenerational participation and engagement can be realized is through a greater engagement of the existing youth participation structure. Increasing youth's engagement with these pre-established organizations and initiatives can greatly aid in creating the necessary pretext under which critical measures and policies can be effectuated. And I would like to have Maddie continue the word, if that's possible.
Yeah, we really wanted to focus on how we could advertise and bring out the problem itself, because as a youth, we don't have the facilities to go out and make all these changes and make huge commitments to our future. And so we wanted to focus on a way that we could help the cause without having to gain so much work that we as youth can't do. So we wanted to obviously mention, as said before, that we can advertise the problem. We can obviously share it in our conference, and we can just give the problem and share it as much as we can so that people then have the education to try and prevent them from putting plastics in the rivers. So we've gone for a more advertising route rather than actually trying to implement things.
Okay, thank you very much. That was your contribution. Thank you. Then that were the youth representatives of the North Sea Commission. Now we go to the North Sea Commission. Magnus, what is your message?
Thanks, Mike. Going to the old representatives, I guess you would say. Big thanks to all our co-organizers of this event, and to the presenters today, and to everyone else for joining this webinar. And greetings also from the North Sea Commission President, who had to attend the CPMR Bureau meeting just today. I think it's obvious to everyone that litter is not a local problem, and what gets into the Zaan River in Holland may end up on my beach here on the Swedish west coast. Well, that's actually where the currents in the North Sea will normally take it, as we saw in the animation from the Clean Atlantic project. Today I took a quick lunch walk to my local beach to check the situation. It was not too bad, but what I found was this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's parts of fishing gear. It's some fragments of different plastic objects like this. And this is actually quite typical of what it looks like when I go to the beach. We don't get so many food containers or plastic bottles. Maybe we got more of that before, but we get a lot of small fragments of things. But as someone said, maybe we should be happy when the litter is on the beach because it means we can take care of it. We should maybe be more worried about what is out there in the sea that we cannot take care of. So we need to cooperate. We've heard about good examples today, and these examples need to be promoted. We need to combine investments and innovations and more developed cross-border coordination as well. There is need for more research on how to recycle marine litter, for example. But first of all, we must prevent litter from entering the seas, of course, or even prevent products from becoming litter in the first place. Circularity should be built into the design of all products. So our conclusion from the North Sea Commission, and we are 27 provinces and regional governments in all countries across the North Sea, is that we must work together on these issues. We can connect people, we can connect ideas, we can raise the issue in our own regional councils and use our development money. We can lobby for decisions in our own countries and on the European level together. And final conclusion, there is no time to waste.
Thank you very much. Powerful message, Magnus. Then we go to the Harbour Master of Amsterdam, Milembe Matteo. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation to say something here. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Good. Well, on a personal note, during listening to all the stories of you, I did a little counting, looking around me. I don't know if you can see it. And I counted the amount of plastics that I have in my living room and kitchen behind me. And at a certain moment, I just stopped counting because it made me a little bit depressed. And that brings me, of course, it's very convenient and it's very nice to have all these choices and to have all these different products that you can choose from. But that brings me to our slogan, which says variety may be the spice of life, but simplicity is the key. Well, what can we do as a port authority? Of course, we have the mandatory collecting of waste on sea ships, the ones that you see behind me on the picture, of which plastic is a separate fraction. But apart from that, we facilitate new parties who contribute to a growing industrial ecosystem, because we believe it is not just the single parts, the single dots in an area, the single companies, but it's the collaborating between the companies that is the key. For that, we work together with companies like AEB, Amsterdam Plastic Recycling, and we are attracting new innovative circular economy companies to the port area to create synergy between the new companies amongst them and the existing companies. Apart from attracting companies, we undertake some large and small scale activities to keep our port area clean. We have litter picking days with employees, not just from the Port of Amsterdam, but also from the companies that are located in the area. And we clean the banks of the canal, the North Sea Canal, a few times a year together with Rijkswaterstaat and Waternet. Well, with that, I come to my conclusion for this 2-minute pitch. The transition from a linear to a circular economy is a huge importance to Port of Amsterdam, and it forms also an important part of our future vision and goals for the port area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Milembe. Now the most important person, and that's of course you, the audience. So I hope that a lot of input has been provided to the Mentimeter. So Frank, What is the input that has been provided?
Sorry, I had to make some changes. Yes, there has been a lot of responses in the, I don't see it behind you. You should see it behind you. Oh, you see it. Okay, there are a lot of responses on a personal level and organizational level. Convince others to not use single-use plastics, or promoting technical solutions, inform decision makers, make my home waste bin plastic free. That's from Georgia. Reducing my consumption, always a good thing. Going on with my program and use no plastic privately. That's of course what we all can do. Reduce your consumption and encourage others by showing the example, of course. Stop buying things in plastic. That will be a challenge because a lot of things are packed in plastics. So you have to skip those products, even if you want them. That principle. Continue my Lives and Schone Rivieren work. That's a conference, a webinar on August 31st, and an end conference in January, 20th of January 2022. So there's a lot of things going on. And this is an interesting personal that buying plastic free, there are options, but you really have to search for them, but you can make a difference. So I think it's very interesting to have a look at it in about a year and see what everybody made of their own, what they were thinking of doing the coming year and what they made of it. So I give the floor back to you, Mike, if you don't run away. Here you are.
Thank you, Frank, for summarizing all the input of the attendees. As you can see, dear ladies and gentlemen, we already made a puzzle, and the largest part is specifically for you because your contribution is of utmost importance. And we mustn't forget, it seems to be like a kind of a European, specifically Dutch party, which isn't. And we are here with 130, 40 countries and three continents altogether. So you all have to provide important input there. So this puzzle isn't complete yet. Your input is of utmost importance. I thank you very much for this part, but we are not there yet. I have to put it away, sorry. We have also a special gift for you, a probability. What chance will that be and what is it all about? Now, I will give the floor to Zita Pels, Professor Holland, but before I do so, she will also conclude a bit after this kind of surprise for you. But anyway, we have the after talks of at least half an hour. So you can provide specific input you couldn't do so far. Also 2-minute pitches. So please stay after this surprise and then we can talk further. And I give the floor now to Zita. Be my guest.
Yes, well, thank you, Mike. And before we talk about our surprise, I'd first like to thank you for your participation. I think we talked thoroughly about the problem. We've seen the solutions, we made the puzzle, and I think now is a good start this event to do the work and work together to make the puzzle work. Well, to the surprise, we have a Wheel of Fortune here, and one of you will be very lucky because you're winning a prize. You don't have to do anything, just be there. And Gerard, can I ask you to spin the wheel for us?
I will.
Let's see, all your names are on the board. So let's see who is our lucky winner. It's Christina. Congratulations, you have won this fantastic and plastic soup puzzle. Congratulations.
Really great. Thank you very much. Sorry. Yeah, well, anyway, we'll just continue now. Thank you very much for concluding this part now. We will go to the last part, the 2-minute pitches. So I hope that a lot of people are still present, that you didn't stop. And now, well, you have to raise your hand in case you would like to share your interest in presenting. And I will be informed about the number of people that will present here as well. So please raise your hand and let me be informed. So Yolanda, you can see that, I guess. Could you explain who will be first there?
Yes, let's have a look. We have a raised hand from Mr. Taco Popma from the Stichting Noordzee, North Sea Foundation.
Yes, hello everyone. So does this mean I can go straight in without further ado? Hi everyone. My name is Taco. I'm with the North Sea Foundation in the Netherlands, and I work there as an international cooperation advisor and as a beach cleanup campaigner. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to tell you very briefly about our annual beach cleanup tour, which is our campaign to clean up the entire Dutch coast over a period of 2 weeks. We do it every summer with the use of, or with the help of volunteers. Over 2,500 people help us every year to clean up our coastline stage by stage. And we do this with a couple of purposes. First of all, we clean up this, we do this campaign, we do this cleanup tour, of course, to clean the beaches of the Dutch coastline and get rid of as much marine and coastal litter as we can. We do this also to raise awareness of the issue of coastal litter, of marine litter, something that is close to your heart, as we've heard in many of your contributions today. We run an extensive national publicity campaign alongside this cleanup tour every year. And we also use the tour to put the spotlight on top marine litter items. Every year we choose an item of focus. It could be bottle caps, it could be straws, it could be cigarette butts, as we will do this year, or it could be balloons and ribbons. And very importantly, to move beyond only cleaning up, we use this cleanup tour as a platform to achieve impact. And to give you just one example, in the years 2018 and 19, we used the tour to focus on the issue of balloons and ribbons, for instance. And we use it as a platform to mobilize our participants to reach out to their local authorities and motivate and mobilize them to take action to avoid and prevent balloon releases. And it resulted, as you can see on the little map on the corner, in a number of 80% of the municipalities in the Netherlands that opted to go for a ban or a restriction on balloon releases on the back of this campaign. So this is also a show of the possible impact that you can achieve by cleaning up. And finally, we do this because it's fun. What better to do than to go to one of the beautiful beaches along the North Sea, even if it is to get your hands dirty and clean up in good company. It's a wonderful day to spend, a wonderful way to spend a day. So if you are along the Dutch coast or anywhere near in the month of August, you're warmly invited to join us for a day of beach cleaning in good company. And if you think that this is an interesting idea and you would like to discuss further, learn more, or team up with us to roll out beach cleanup campaigning and prevention actions across borders, do reach out and get in touch, because we are definitely interested to that kind of cooperation. My contacts are here. You can scan the QR code, and I'd be looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Taco. Yolanda, who is next?
I got a direct message from Marijke Boonstra, who wants to take the floor. Marijke, are you there?
Yes, I think you gave me, you made me co-host, so I think I can show my presentation. Okay, I think you can see my screen now, right, Ivan? can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. My name is Marijke Boonstra and I work for the North Sea Foundation. And in 2017, we started the Clean Rivers project together with EVN, the Institute for Nature Education, and the Plastic Soup Foundation. And we have dealt with the problem of river pollution in the Netherlands for quite some years now. And the problem is that we don't know how much litter is coming into our rivers and the amounts that enter the sea. So we started this project to do river litter research. So what we do is we go with interested citizens, we educate them as river litter researchers, and we conduct monitoring, because this is very important for all the work that we do. We need to have more knowledge about the river litter pollution, and to do this, we need to have data. And this is a very important element of the Clean Rivers project. But what we also do is we organize river cleanups, we do advocacy. Of course, we need policies in place that prevent litter entering our rivers, entering our seas. And we want to do that with as much citizens as possible. And we want to mobilize them on local, regional, and national levels to help us in our mission for clean rivers in 2030. We have a call to action. What has said in the last presentations and during this whole seminar, we need to work together. It's a transnational problem, and it also needs transnational solutions. So we need to collect more data on river litter. We need to have a harmonized monitoring approach, a harmonized methodology. We need to identify litter river hotspots. We need to conduct more cleanups. And what is very, very important is that prevention. And we need to, prevention is very, very key. And we need more policies in place on national, but also European levels. And we need to cooperate more together. And we'd like to invite all of you to our Clean Rivers webinar. So we want to tell more about our project, what we do, but also we want to start an international program, an international project where we do more monitoring in Europe, and we need you for that. So please sign up for our webinar and we can discuss our international ambitions for clean rivers in 2030. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Marijke. What was the date of the webinar, by the way?
31st of August.
31st of August. Okay, noted. Thank you. The next one, Jolanda.
Yes, I see two other hands up. One is from Leander, and then we have Hannah-Dore, a colleague of mine in the Marine Resources Group, the new advisor in the North Sea Commission. So good to see you here, Hannah-Dore. But first we take Leander from the Great Bubble Barrier.
All right, hope you all can hear me properly. If that's the case, then I'll just start. I just want to mention, Francis already explained the whole story, but it's of course very important to also understand the local context and also the context that you are trying to solve problems in. Therefore, I would also encourage you to reach out, and then we can have a conversation about the challenges that you're facing. I will also share a QR code to do so. But I think it's also important to mention that there would be a quick scan available, so that we can have a quick assessment of your location to see if it's suitable for a bubble barrier. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. And I also do think it would be very useful to also reach out to Constance, not only about the bubble barrier in Amsterdam, but also about her plastic smart city. Of course, it's an effort we have to take that also happens on land instead of also only in the river. So I do also encourage you to contact her. I'm sorry, Constance, if you didn't comply with that, but I think we talked about it before. But, yeah, looking forward to meet all of you after this event.
Thank you, Leander. Is there someone next?
Yes, next up is Hannelore. Hello, Hannelore.
First of all, I want to thank the whole team of, I don't know exactly, I think the province of North Holland with all his associated to organize this very nice webinar. I learned a lot. It was very nice to see an overview of different projects and different aspects. But I want to make a statement. I'm asking for all the politicians here present. It will take courage. It will take courage to act. It will take courage at all levels. I think, as you all mentioned, we all have a piece of the puzzle. And even if it's from a local level, if it's from a local municipality, as Taco mentioned, you can start with a ban on balloons, or even if it's on a European level, we really have to discuss this. The producer responsibility, which is also a very important piece of the puzzle. So it will take courage, and I hope, and even for us within our personal lives, every time we are in a market or in a shop, we can make a choice. We have to take the courage to make the right choice. And so I want to appeal to all of you to have a lot of courage in this next years. Thank you.